You're probably scrolling through a dozen solar kits, wondering if any of them will actually power your home without turning your garage into a storage unit of half-assembled parts. I get that hesitation. You don't want to drop a few $100s on a system that ends up gathering dust, and you definitely don't want to be left in the dark when the grid goes out. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, so you can see exactly what's in the box before you decide. The eco-worthy 4.68 kWh solar power complete kit tries to be the all-in-one answer for folks who want a modest amount of backup power without hiring an electrician. What makes it stand out is that it bundles 6 195W type bifacial panels, a 48V50Ah Li-Fa-Po4 battery, and a 3.5 kilowatts inverter into a single package. That sounds neat on paper, but the real question is how it behaves once you actually hook it up to a few lights, a fridge, or your home office. First off, let's talk about the panels. Thin-type cells are marketed as high efficiency, and the bifacial design means they capture sunlight from both sides. In a sunny backyard with the panels tilted at about 20 degrees, I've seen owners get close to the advertised 195W per panel on a clear day. That translates to roughly 1.2 kilowatts of peak power for the whole array, which is enough to charge the battery fully in about 4 to 5 hours of strong sun. If you live in a region that gets 5 to 6 peak sun hours on average, you can expect the battery to be topped up each day without having to run the inverter constantly. The battery is where the kit starts to feel practical for everyday use. At 48V and 50Ah, the Li-Fa-Po4 pack stores about 2.56 kilowatt-hours. That's enough to keep a small refrigerator running for a full day, power a couple of LED lights, charge a laptop, and maybe even keep a Wi-Fi router alive through a nighttime outage. The chemistry is stable. You won't see the dreaded memory effect that older lead-acid batteries suffer, and the depth of discharge can safely go down to 80% without hurting cycle life. In plain terms, you get more usable juice out of the pack than you would with a comparable lead-acid system. Now, the inverter. It's rated at 3.5 kilowatts, which sounds like overkill for a kit that only stores 2.5 kilowatt-hours, but the high rating gives you headroom for short bursts of power. If you need to run a microwave for a few minutes or start a small air conditioner, the inverter can handle the spike without tripping. The downside is that the inverter is a pure sine wave model, which is good for sensitive electronics, but it also draws a bit of idle power, roughly 5-7W, even when nothing's plugged in. Over a month, that idle draw adds up to a few dollars of lost energy, something to keep in mind if you're budgeting every watt. Who should consider buying this kit? If you're a homeowner with a modest energy footprint, think a cabin, a small off-grid cabin, a tiny house, or a suburban house that wants a backup for essential loads, the eco-worthy kit checks a lot of boxes. It's especially appealing if you don't want to coordinate multiple vendors for panels, batteries, and an inverter. The all-in-one nature reduces the headache of compatibility, because the components are matched to work together out of the box. For someone who wants to start with a manageable 1 to 2 kilowatts system and maybe expand later, the kit gives you a solid foundation. On the flip side, if you're looking to power a whole house with multiple high-draw appliances, this won't cut it. The 2.5 kilowatt-hour battery will run out quickly if you try to run a washing machine, dryer, or full-size air conditioner for extended periods. Similarly, if you already have a roof that's optimized for solar and you just need a battery backup, you might save money by buying a battery and inverter separately that match your existing panel layout. Finally, if you live in an area with very low sun exposure, say under 3 peak sun hours per day, the panels simply won't generate enough energy to keep the battery topped up, and you'll end up relying more on the grid than you hoped. Installation is where the real-world story gets interesting. The kit comes with mounting brackets, cables, and a quick start guide that walks you through connecting the panels in series, hooking up the charge controller, and wiring the inverter to a dedicated circuit. For a DIY-oriented homeowner, the process can be finished in a weekend if you have basic tools and a ladder. However, the guide assumes you're comfortable working with 48V DC. That voltage can give you a nasty shock if you're not careful. If you're not competent in handling high-voltage wiring, it's worth budgeting for an electrician to do the final hookup to your home's breaker panel. One practical strength that often gets lost in spec sheets is how the battery's thermal management works. The Lithium 4 pack includes an internal temperature sensor.